Hey guys, and welcome back. This is going to be tutorial number 15, part 1. Today we're going to be building a Dragon Quest style save system and game over system. If you guys have ever played Dragon Quest, the idea here is that you'd walk into a church, and when you would talk to the pastor, he'd give you the option to have a confession, which was essentially calling the save menu, and a number of other options. So what we're going to do is we're going to be making this to do exactly that, but it's also going to, whenever you enter a church, it's going to remember that church, so that the next time you die, when you're instead of going to direct game over, it's going to transfer you back to that church. So what we'll do is we'll hijack the game over scene, and if you wanted to, you can make it an actual game over, and so on. But I mean, generally speaking, it's just going to say game over, and then it'll take you back to that appropriate church if you've been to one. If you haven't been to one, then we're going to have it actually just fail out and go right to the title screen, just like the standard title screen does. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So let's go ahead and get started on it. The very first thing we're going to be doing is to go through um, the saving of the last church that you've been to, and of course with that then we will store that information inside of the game player, so that the next time they die, etc., then you'll be able to recall that information. So let's go ahead and get into that. Alright, first off, let me go and get the recorder here out of the way. Go ahead and create a new script section, and for this one here we're going to go ahead and call this DQ save. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and create a new class here. It's not going to be a brand new class, but this is going to be game player less than game character. And then inside of here, what we're going to do is, again, we're going to actually save the information for the player for the transfer. So the player is the one who actually stores the information for the transfer in RPG Maker VX. So let's go in and double check which variables exactly. But alright, so transferring is our variable. And let's see, execute, perform transfer. This is where we're going to want to play with. So whenever you do a transfer, that's when we're going to hijack this. So we're going to go ahead and paste in the old code, and we're going to go ahead and alias it, and we're going to go GM player perf transfer DQ save, and then that is going to be perform transfer unless $at. Okay, we copy the renamed method, and then we're going to go ahead and paste that in here, and then we are going to hijack this variable here, and we're going to say if we are transferring, then we are going to check this new map ID, and we are going to ask it if it is a church. So we need a method to say that you are a church. So let's go ahead, so that needs to go right there, and alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a module up here, all lowercase of course, and then we're going to call this DQ save. And then inside of here, we're going to go ahead and say church maps. And then we'll just make that an array, and then you can fill it with all of the different maps that are going to be churches. 2 I'm using as a testing map, so that's we're going to keep that out. So you just come in here and you specify the different church maps in an array, just like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to ask this map if it is a church. So as we're transferring, we're going to go ahead and say DQ save : church underscore maps dot include. Now include is a method of the array class, so we're just asking it, is one of your elements, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this particular map ID. So we are going to say if transferring and that is a church map, then we're going to say last visited church equals new map ID. Okay, and then one thing I didn't really cover in a previous tutorial was that when you make an attribute accessor, reader, or writer, all you're doing is essentially creating a quick method for reading and writing this particular instance variable. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to create that same method without using an attribute reader, writer, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to say def last church, okay? And this method is going to look at this last visited church variable, and it's going to ask it if it exists. So if it's not equal to nil, then it's going to then go ahead and return the last visited church. Otherwise, it's going to return nil, which you don't have to actually put it, but yeah. Anyway, so if that doesn't exist, then it's going to go ahead and return nil. So in which case, the last church would return, of course, nil. Now, say for example, you want to set the last church, not via this method up here, but perhaps via from an outside class. So say you're operating in your scene and you want to say, oh, well, I didn't actually transfer you to this map. Shouldn't be possible, but anyways, what we'll do is we'll just show you how to set that manually. So what we can do is you can do the same thing and you do last church equals, and then in parentheses you put how many arguments or overloads you're going to pass it, and then of course here you can go ahead and say last visited church equals value, and then anytime you don't actually put a return, it always returns the last line. So you don't, I mean, like I said, technically you don't need that return nil on that one. But anyways, what this does, so this is an attribute reader, and this is an attribute writer, and these are an attribute accessor. So basically, it allows you to do additional processing on your variables or your properties here, because you're saying, you know what, here are some additional things you can check for in returning a result. So it's basically a method, but that's all an attribute reader or whatever is anyways. It's just a method. So we don't actually need the set method, since transferring is a global thing. There's nothing we can do to actually get you to a map without going, well, I take that back. There's nothing we can't do, but anyways. Alright, so that takes care of storing the map. So now we need to know, how do I get back to the map? Not only how do I get back to the map, but where do I go on the map? Because, say for example, I died clear over here, and this was my last visited. Well, if I died clear over here, I'd be off the screen. So you'd be like, well, I'm restored to this map, but now what? So what we're going to do is we're going to create a method, or I'm sorry, a event out here, and we're going to go ahead and give it a comment, and we're going to call this church spawn. Okay, and once we've got that in there, we're going to go back into our script, and then we're going to say spawn text equals, and then we put that in quotes. And so now we are going to, let's see, we probably want to put this as part of game map. So we're going to say game map, and I don't think it inherits from anything, but let's just go double check. Game map. Alright, so it does not inherit from anything, so that's good. what we're going to do is we're just going to create a new method in here. So we're going to say GameMap.findSpawn. You know what? We're going to say find DQ spawn. The only reason why is just because if you have a enemy spawning script or something along those lines, it's a possibility that the naming might match up. I'm honestly not sure, but this is just a good way to make it unique. So we're just going to say find unique or DQ spawn. And then what we're going to do is we're going to ask the map to go through each of the events on the map and then determine which event has this comment, and then of course transfer you to that event. Now this event should always be, of course, a event that has no graphics, so it shouldn't prevent you from moving over it or anything along those lines. So with this, let's go ahead and let me just check the time here quick. We're only at 10 minutes. We got plenty of time. All right, so we're going to say well, actually, we're already in game map. So game map, I think it's just a instance events. So let me just go double check that. And it is setup events. Yes, it is events. All right, so it is a hash though, so we need to make sure that when we call it, we say events.values to actually get the events that exist. So we're going to say for event in events.values. So we actually return the actual events, not just a array of the keys. Or I'm sorry, not just the hash. Whenever you can't iterate a hash directly, you have to iterate it through its keys or its values. So this is the values returns a list of, or I'm sorry, an array of the objects that are contained in it. Where if you did events.keys, then it would return the key to each of the values that are contained in it. So it's kind of basically the index to it, but it allows you to set special characters for actually getting your full values. So let's see. So we're going to go through each event, and we're going to say event.list, which is a method that returns the whole, all the event code list. And then we're going to say for event command, you know what, let's say for command in event list, and then we say if command dot code equals what is the code number for a comment? You know, honestly, I can't remember. So what we're going to do is we're going to print the command code. And yeah, so we're just going to print the command code when we execute this. But what we're going to do is we're going to find out what the ID is for our event here. So this is event ID number 7. So we're just going to say if event.id equals 7. Alright, so now we'll only get it printed if that. So we're going to copy that command there. And, you know, I'm going to keep this guy for, well, yeah, we're going to keep this guy, but I'm going to actually change this to a harder battle so he can kill us later. So we'll keep him up here out of the way for now. But we're going to go ahead and create a new person here. We'll get to the pastor later, but let's just go ahead and add this guy. And he is going to simply run this script to get us there. So game map is, of course, $game map, and then, of course, the method we just created to execute that event. So let's go ahead and run this. And perform. Oh, I didn't spell perform right. See that? It's got an extra E in it that it shouldn't have. Perform. There we are. And alright, I got it right there, so we're good. So we are going to talk to my magical door here, and it is command code 108. So, and of course the second one is nothing, so it returns 0. So let's get back in there. So we're going to remove this, and we're going to say if command code equals to 108, then we are going to check the parameter. I believe it's parameters is always an array. Parameters, and then we're going to say 0, but that is actually command dot parameters, not add. And then, so we're always going to return the first one, which a comment is always going to be the first one. And we're going to ask it if it includes our DQ save spawn text. Alright, so if it includes that, I guess we can do that, then we are going to transfer the player to that event X and Y. So we're going to say game player dot move to, and then we're going to say event dot X and event dot Y. And I think that is all we need. So let's go ahead and try that again. What we should expect to see is when we talk to this guy, we will automatically jump from wherever we are talking to him to right there. So let's just go ahead and try this again. Alright, so the reason that, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and talk to him, and what we should see is we just blink from here over to the new location, and there we are. We do that. So that is working appropriately. So now we need to determine how to transfer back to this map when you die. So let's go look at game over. And so game over simply stops the current backgrounds, plays the ME, and then it waits for 120 frames while it transitions into the scene. It creates the background, and then it's going to go into the update loop at that point, and then here it's just going to look for input C, and if so, then it's going to transfer to the title with a transition time of 120 frames. So simply put, I think we just need to hijack this update method, and we're just going to check for input, and we are going to pass that to, alright, so yeah, here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab update. No, let's just grab all the way up to there since I need the class definition anyways. Oops. Copy that, go back down here to ours, and we're going to go ahead and paste that in here, remove the extra that we don't care about. And then we're going to alias, let's put that below the comment stuff there. Alias scene game over DQ save, and then update. And then we're going to copy that, paste that here, and then we're going to, you know what, actually we want that to be below the new input trigger. So we'll do it like this, and then we will say graphics, fade out, I guess we can do that. It's not a big deal whether we do or not. But we are going to say game map dot setup. Well, you know what? We also need to check whether or not you actually visited a church. So we need to say if game player dot, and we said last church not equal to nil, then we are going to say game map dot setup, which is the method to set up a map, and then we are going to pass it the last church, and then we are going to transfer the player to that location. So we're going to say game map dot, and then find the spawn location for that map and transfer the player there, and then we are going to scene equals scene map dot new. I think that is everything we need. You can keep the transition there if you want. And then, you know what? We did not play the music for the map. So let's go, well, Actually, we're not part of the scene, so the only time you would need to play that is if you're, I don't know, you'll have to play with that and see whether or not returning to the map automatically plays it. Otherwise, then it's not. But let's look. I'm pretty sure it's called autoplay. Def autoplay for game maps. So here we just say autoplay. Is that part of setup, perhaps? Let's see, setup and need refresh equals false. It is not setting the autoplay, so we need to execute that ourselves. So we're going to say game map dot autoplay. All right, so let's go ahead and do that, and we'll do it right there. Actually, we'll do that right after that. And excuse me while I answer my cell phone. Alright guys, sorry about that wait. Anyways, not that you actually saw any wait time. Anyways, so now we've gone and we've designed the system, so now we just need to make sure that when we die that we are transferred back to the appropriate map and that we are transferred to the appropriate location on that map. Now the other thing though is that if no comment, if there is if there is no event that exists with a comment that includes the spawn text, you're simply going to stay at whatever XY you were of the map in which you were when you died. So what that means is that, as I said before, you could very well end up being off of the map or whatever. So you just want to make sure that you handle that. I think that's a pretty easy thing to ask, since it's still not going to crash on you, but you're going to not be able to move your character back onto the map if you don't do this. So anyways, I think we've got everything we need here. We just need an additional end here to close the class scene game over, and I think that pretty much handles it. So my magical door map here, as I call it, is map ID number 2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to transfer to map number 1, and then what we need to do is we need to transfer back to map number 2. You know what, let's just take this guy and move him to map number, well no, we still have to transfer to it. So we'll go ahead and move him over there, but then what we're going to do is we're going to talk to this guy, and rather than him running the script file, since we don't need that anymore, we're going to have him transfer us back to the other map. So we're going to have him transfer us back to right here, and then we'll go ahead and run that. So okay, so first, number 1, talk to the door first. That will transfer us to the other map, which will then set our last visited church. And then if we don't go to that and we just come to him, then it should send us directly. You know, I forgot, and I'm sorry if you've already had to deal with this, but the volume level tends to actually interact directly with the volume level of the playback in the game here. So unfortunately, I'm sorry if I already hurt your ears, but yeah. Anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and test play that one more time now that I got the volume fixed here. Go ahead and talk to him and have him kill us, and we're just to go over to the other map, and then we're going to talk to him. So this is the church map. So we just now had the last church set. So now we're going to this other map. Fades out. So let's make sure it's actually running through this code here and performing our transfer, or it's getting that our map ID is a church. So let's see here, our last visited church, and okay, so let's just go ahead and add a coming through here. Alright, so we should see that just right when we transfer to the map. We just need to make sure that it's actually storing so that when we transfer over. Alright, so it is most definitely setting that. So the question is, why did it transfer? Oh, you know what? This is why. If you don't return off of that, then it still goes through the old scene update. Of course, if it goes through the old scene update, it's going to send you to the title. So let's try to test this before our 30 minutes is up, and we'll try this again. Hopefully straight kill me this time. So go ahead and transfer over there. We transfer back, and out, returns to the map, and of course we are in the location of that event, and we just resume. So everything worked like it was supposed to, so we're going to go ahead and call it right there for the first part, and for the second part we're going to be actually filling the second half of the request, which is to build the pastor's menu, and we will go from there. So, oh, and by the way, this request comes from Cage Kazami of Creation Asylum. So anyways, let's go ahead. We'll end it right there for now, and we'll see you guys back in just a moment.